Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Esther Archange, and I am an academic trainer with the Center for Teaching and Learning. Today's session is titled Research Beyond the Library with NCU librarians Taylor Duncan and Marisha Kelly. Thank you for being here. Just a couple of housekeeping items before the presentation. I'm recording the webinar and the video will be posted on the Center for Teaching and Learning LibGuide's webinar page within 24 hours. If you have questions throughout today's session, you can type them in the Q&A feature located at the bottom of the Zoom window. Be sure to use this feature to ask your questions directly to the presenters. In addition, the chat feature is open for dialogue and conversation. We welcome all questions, so please don't be shy. With that, I will turn it over to Taylor Duncan and Marisha Kelly.
Thank you, Esther. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today. My name is Taylor Duncan. I'm the instructional design librarian here at NCU Library, and I will turn it over to Marisha to introduce herself.
And I'm Marisha Kelly, and I'm one of the reference and instruction librarians with NCU Library. So as we mentioned, today's session is about covering all things research beyond the NCU library. And we will be going over alternative search tools, resources, open access resources, and open educational resources. So that being said, a couple of our objectives for today's session. We hope that after attending today's session, you'll be able to define open access and open educational resources. You'll be able to use open access and open educational resources to expand your access to scholarly resources. And we'll also talk about identifying alternative search tools and services for expanding your access to research resources. So our intent for this session is not to overwhelm you by any means, but our goal is to provide you with a high-level overview of different types of search tools, different types of resources that you might incorporate into your research process within this short hour. So all in all, just to bring some awareness and allow you to explore these different tools that you can incorporate as part of your research. And before we dive into open access resources, I do want to share, if you have any questions following today's session, anything that we can help with research-wise, navigating the NCU library resources, please know that the NCU library team is here to support you. You can chat with us, you can call us, you can text us, you can also email us, and then you do have access to our frequently asked questions site. So feel free to search this knowledge base of sorts. If you have a question, chances are someone may have posed that question already, and there may be a how-to or a step-by-step that you can follow, but please don't hesitate to reach out to us if you do have questions following today's session.
Thanks so much, Marisha. So we are going to get started by talking about open access resources first and foremost. And please do not panic if this terminology is not familiar to you by the end of the session. Our hope is that you have a pretty substantial understanding of precisely what we're talking about. All right, so with open access resources, I have a definition here on the slide, and it is rather lengthy, but it does encompass everything that open access entails. So open access is a broad international movement that seeks to grant free and open online access to academic information, such as publications and data. A publication is defined open access when there are no financial, legal, or technical barriers to accessing it. That is to say that anyone can read, download, copy, distribute, print, search for, or search within the information, or use it in education or in any other way within the legal agreements. Okay, so I know, again, that was a mouthful. In short, open access resources are free to access for everyone. There are no hoops to jump through. You simply have free, unfettered online access to OA resources. So now that we've defined open access, let's discuss why it's important. Why should you even care about open access? I know that we have both students and faculty in attendance, so I want to briefly discuss why OA is important to both students and faculty alike. So first and foremost, open access increases the visibility and reuse of academic research. Because it's free to access, as we mentioned, OA removes financial, legal, and technical barriers. New ideas can be dispersed more rapidly and widely, which expands the global body of knowledge. Due to worldwide visibility, open access research also leads to more citations and impact. So for all of you out there who have published or you're considering publishing, keep that in mind. Open access also contributes to the knowledge economy and provides an economic boost by giving businesses broad access to the most recent scientific ideas. So that's how open access benefits us all. More specifically, for all of you students, you can freely use open access resources in your studies. And for faculty, you can freely use open access resources in your teaching. Just be aware that attribution is almost always required. Okay, so before we delve into places you can go to find open access, both within and outside of NCU Library, we highly encourage you to check out our open access resources LibGuide. It's going to provide more information and resources than we could possibly cover in the webinar. We have included the link within the PowerPoint slides here, but you can also access it by going straight to the library's homepage. And right where we have the Roadrunner Search, the central search box on the library's homepage, click on the tab for library guides, and you would scroll down through the alphabetical list of guides from there. Okay, so we're going to start with open access resources that you can find out on the web. So again, these aren't housed in the NCU library, and we've included the URL. They're just freely available online. First up, we have the Directory of Open Access Journals, or the DOAJ, which was launched in 2003 with 300 open access journals. But today it has approximately 17,500 peer-reviewed open access journals covering a multitude of disciplines, from science and tech to social sciences, arts and the humanities. The DOAJ has as their mission to increase the visibility, accessibility, reputation, usage, and impact of quality, peer-reviewed, open access scholarly research journals globally, regardless of discipline, geography, or language. If you do any searching or browsing within the DOAJ, you might also notice that some of the journals have something called a DOAJ seal. And what that means is that the journal demonstrates best practices in open access publishing. So some criteria to get that DOAJ seal includes licensing information that's clearly displayed in the articles, so you know exactly how you may copy or reuse the information. The articles are digitally preserved through an archive on the web, and there's a persistent link available, like a DOI, so that you can always get back to the resource. Similar to the DOAJ, we also have the DOAB, the Directory of Open Access Books. This is a community-driven discovery service that indexes and provides access to scholarly, peer-reviewed, open access books. And it also helps users to find trusted open access book publishers. So if you're ever considering publishing a book and you want it to be open access, the DOAB can certainly assist. All of their services are free of charge, and all of their data is freely available. As of today, they have nearly 50,000 books available within the directory. And all of the publishers in the DOAB are screened for their peer review procedures and licensing policies. So the publishers are trustworthy. Next up is the SSRN, the Social Science Research Network. This is an open access research platform used to share early stage research, evolve ideas, measure results, and connect scholars around the world. It is instrumental as a starting point for PhD students and faculty to post early stage research prior to publication in academic journals. SSRN is devoted to the rapid worldwide dissemination of research, and it also has a number of specialized research networks. So if you if your discipline is within health sciences, nursing, public health, they also have a research network devoted to psychology and so on and so forth. They would be a great resource to check out. Next is Oyster. Oyster is a union catalog of millions of records that represent open access resources. Today, Oyster includes more than 50 million records that represent digital resources from more than 2,000 contributors. It is a worldwide repository providing integrated access and increased visibility to open access resources. And I'm going to turn it over to Marisha to talk about a couple more open access resources.
So the next resource that we have here is the Digital Commons Network, which provides free access to full-text scholarly articles from universities and colleges worldwide. It is curated by university librarians and their supporting institutions. The network actually includes a growing collection of peer-reviewed journal articles, book chapters, dissertations, if you're looking for ideas, working papers, conference proceedings, and other original scholarly work. A lot of different subjects are represented in the Digital Commons Network, including business, education, law, medicine, health sciences, social and behavioral sciences, among others. What's nice about this particular tool is that you can explore topics of interest by scrolling over the topic wheel, which you'll see on the left-hand side here, or you can also conduct a keyword search using the box at the top right of the page to find related resources. And you'll notice that there are a couple of unique filters as well. So you can filter by keyword, you can filter by type of publication, you can also filter by discipline. And then our next resource here is JournalToc, also known as Journal Table of Contents. And this is a free scholarly journal table of contents searching service that indexes more than 35 journals from more than 3,600 publishers. So this particular tool won't necessarily link you to the full text of a resource. However, you'll be able to access information from top journals and what's being published, and look to access those articles elsewhere. So you can use the search box to view volume and issue content by journal title, or you can search published articles or citations using a keyword search. You're also able to browse a list of journals by subject to locate potential sources of information. So if your focus is education and you wanted to take a look at a long list of education-related journals, we can do that using JournalToc. I do recommend signing up for a free account. That way you can search the full database of journal content, and you're also able to receive email alerts whenever new issues are published in the journals that you follow. And if you have identified a useful journal title, or if you found a really great article citation, what you can do is you can check the NCU library to see if we have full text access to that particular resource, or if we don't have it, and we'll talk about this service in a little bit as well, but if we don't have full text access to that particular article or that particular journal, you can certainly submit a request through our Interlibrary Loan service. And then our next slide here is related to finding open access resources using Roadrunner Search, which if you're not familiar with Roadrunner, it is our central search for the library, and it links you to different types of databases, resources, and content that are available. So one of the first places that you can go to in order to find open access resources is right within Roadrunner Search. So using that central search box on the library's homepage, you can conduct a search on any topic using your keyword terms. And then once you're on the results page, you can actually limit your search using the open access limiter on the far left. So you can see it's highlighted there. And what this does is it pulls open access content from a variety of different platforms, but it aggregates all of these open access results in your Roadrunner search. So I would definitely consider starting your search here for open access resources. And you'll notice in this one search result that we can view the record in the DOAJ, so Directory of Open Access Journals. So know that you're linking out to all of these open access resources right from within the library.
Thanks, Marisha. Okay, so stick with us. We know that was a lot on open access. We are going to shift gears here now and talk about open educational resources, or OER. Okay, so what is OER? Again, I have a very lengthy definition, but it truly summarizes all that OER entails. Open educational resources are teaching, learning, and research materials in any medium that reside in the public domain or that have been released under an open license that permits no-cost access, use, adaptation, and redistribution by others. OER includes textbooks, curricula, syllabi, lecture, notes, video, audio, simulation, assessments, and any other content that is used in education. OER provide ubiquitous access to high-quality, effective learning materials that can be easily tailored and freely adapted, revised, expanded, translated, and shared with educators and learners around the world. OER support the practice of open education, an umbrella term for the mix of open content, practices, policies, and communities that properly leveraged can provide broad access to effective learning opportunities for everyone. Okay, so in a nutshell, OER are educational materials that are specifically designed by their creators to be openly available, and they're often licensed to be reused, remixed, and redistributed. OER come in a variety of formats, which we just covered, so it could be everything from text, image, sound, video, to assessments, simulations, lectures, and even entire courses. Okay, so now you may be thinking that open access and open educational resources sound pretty similar, so I do want to make an important distinction. While both OA and OER are free, OA, open access, can only be used as is, typically, without making changes to the original work. Where OER can, again, I will say typically, be reused, remixed, and adapted. So in short, open access, we cannot make changes to, but with OER, we can make changes. And I said typically because you have to pay attention to what the license permits, but oftentimes you can make changes to it. So now that we know one of the major distinctions between open access and OER, let's discuss why OER is important. OER is important to students because when OER is used as your course resources, you get immediate free access to your learning resources. So it has the potential to save you as well as the university money. OER is typically very current with up-to-date subject content and contemporary events because it can be changed. So it's more likely to go through updates on a regular basis. And this leads into reasons why OER is important to faculty. With OER, faculty can adapt, they can remix, they can shape the content to fit their course needs. It can also be adopted in the course room to enhance and enrich already existing learning resources. And lastly, courses that use OER can be designated as zero textbook cost, or ZTC, meaning that there is no cost to students for their learning resources, for their course resources. ZTC courses have actually been statistically linked to decreased time to degree attainment for students. Okay, and finally, why is OER important to both students and faculty? You have the opportunity to create learning resources that can impact education on a global scale. So for our faculty and students alike, if you have dreams of writing a textbook or creating a video series or designing some type of simulation, in the interest of expanding the global body of knowledge, consider authoring as an OER. That gives other educators the opportunity to expand on and remix your work while also giving you attribution. Okay, so we're going to take a look at how you find OER in just a second. But similar to our open access resources LibGuide, we also have an OER guide within the library. You would go to the same place to access it, right on the library's homepage under the Library Guides tab. Okay, so we have defined OER, we've talked about its distinction from open access, and we've discussed why it's important. Let's move on to how you discover OER. Just like we saw with open access resources, there are many open collections and websites for discovering OER. One of the largest and most well-known is Merlot. The Merlot system provides access to curated online learning and support materials and content creation tools, and it's led by an international community of educators, learners, and researchers. The collection is now up to 91,000 materials, and that's in 22 different source types. And many of the resources are peer-reviewed. Moving on to Open Textbook Library. Open Textbook Library, as the name would imply, is a collection of open textbooks that are free to use and distribute, and they're licensed to be freely adapted or changed as long as you provide proper attribution. Books in the OTL have also been peer-reviewed for quality. And the Open Textbook Library has multiple criteria for inclusion in the library. Their collection is getting close to 1,000 textbooks. Another textbook collection that we have is OpenStax. OpenStax has as their mission to improve educational access and learning for everyone. They publish high quality, peer-reviewed, openly licensed college textbooks that are absolutely free online, and you even have an option to print at a low cost. They now have a collection of a small but mighty collection of 42 textbooks. Oasis, Openly Available Sources Integrated Search, is a search tool that aims to make the discovery of open content easier. Oasis currently searches open content from 97 different sources, and it contains more than 440,000 records at present. You can discover textbooks, course materials, interactive simulations, videos, podcasts, audiobooks, and more within Oasis. And lastly, I want to discuss a resource for uncovering OER that is exclusive to our NCU faculty and staff. Faculty Select is a proprietary database that you can only access through NCU Library. And again, this is only available to our faculty and staff, not our students. Faculty Select empowers libraries to directly support textbook affordability efforts. Through a single interface, faculty can search and access open educational resources, in addition to unrestricted library ebooks from top academic publishers. By leveraging free open materials and low-cost library licensed resources, faculty can transform their courses and reduce the cost burden for students. So when using Faculty Select, you're actually concurrently searching two different source types. You're searching for OER, but you're also searching and discovering DRM-free textbooks. Not to confuse anyone, the DRM-free textbooks they do have a nominal cost that the library absorbs. But what DRM stands for is digital rights management. So these books are free of DRM. And what that means is that there are no restrictions for students in terms of how much they want to copy, to download, or print. So it completely eliminates those access barriers. If we have any faculty or staff who are interested in using Faculty Select, please contact myself or contact the library, and we'll be happy to get you set up with access.
Now that we've kind of gone over all of these different tools and resources that are both open access and open educational content, I do want to touch a little bit on some of the alternative search tools, strategies, and services that you might use to help in your research process. So the NCU library has access to a lot of different resources, but we certainly don't have access to everything. So throughout the course of your research, you may come across an article or a book chapter or some title that, is critical for your research. And we want to make sure that you gain access to it one way or another. So our first service that we'll talk about, and hopefully everyone here is familiar with or has heard of Interlibrary Loan, but this is a free service that allows you to electronically request and receive articles, book chapters, reports, and other content when not available in full text from the NCU library or on the web. So in your attempt to, find different research resources related to your topic, you might find something through a Google Scholar search or a web search, and you click on that resource and it's asking you to pay an exorbitant amount of money to read that article or to read that book chapter. So please know that you do have this service where you can place a request for that resource. With Interlibrary Loan, delivery times are dependent on the item's availability from a lending library, but general turnaround times for content are 3 to 5 days. Sometimes sooner, sometimes a little bit longer, depending on the type of resource. If you don't have access to your Interlibrary Loan account on the library's homepage, under How Can I, you can click on Request Interlibrary Loan Items, or if you click on the Services tab in the top navigation, you can also access the Interlibrary Loan page. And everybody here has access to Interlibrary Loan. You actually log into the system using your NCU school email address. But if it is your first time placing a request and accessing that system, you will need to reset your password in order to access Interlibrary Loan. So you're just setting up the password for Interlibrary Loan. It won't affect your other NCU logins. And the next slide here just kind of goes over when to request items through Interlibrary Loan. So again, as you're going through your research process, you may come across a resource that is not available in Roadrunner Search. Sometimes you might get that page that says, unfortunately, we don't have this resource. Please try the other options, and Interlibrary Loan is one of them. Sometimes you do a search and find a resource, which is that tab next to the Roadrunner Search tab on the center of the library's homepage. You want to see if we have access to an ebook or access to a journal publication, and you're coming up short, no results. So this is an opportunity where you can place a request for that resource, for that article, or for that book chapter. And again, if you're struggling to figure out whether or not the NCU library has access to a particular resource, feel free to reach out to us. Feel free to send us the citation. We're happy to cross-check access for any resources. But again, we may refer you over to Interlibrary Loan to gain access to that content. So our next slide here is related to our library alternatives LibGuide. So this particular guide page actually lets you link to public or academic libraries for access to research resources. So again, the NCU library has access to many different types of content, but we certainly don't have access to everything. And in some cases, you may want to acquire a physical copy of a book or the full text of a resource that we just may not have. And in that case, you can check, your local public library or your local academic library. And many states also provide residents with access to different research databases through state electronic libraries. So this might be another way for you to expand your access to research and resources, is using those state provided databases. So I live in the state of Florida, so we have access to the Florida Electronic Library, and there's some subject specific and local government databases that we have access through that portal. So keep those things in mind. If you can't acquire a print text, a physical copy of a book, obviously through the NCU library, since we're 100% remote, you can check your local public or academic library. And the next tool that we have here is one that I hope everyone will kind of keep in their back pocket. This is worldcat.org. If you're not familiar with worldcat.org, it is an online catalog that allows you to search the collections of libraries in your community and thousands more around the world. It is primarily used for locating physical items, so things like books, CDs, videos that you're traditionally used to checking out from libraries. This particular database does not provide you with full text access to articles. However, you can also look up journal publications to see if there's a local library near you that provides access to the resource. So on the next slide, you'll see kind of an example of a particular title. So if I wanted the physical copy of this book, I'm not just interested in reading a chapter, but I want to read it cover to cover because of, my research interests and what I'm exploring as part of my topic. You can go to worldcat.org. You can run a search for the resource title, and then you'll be brought to the record landing page, the resource summary page. And what's nice about WorldCat is that you can enter your zip code, and it will show a list of potential local libraries that have access to this book or this resource for checkout. Please don't make the mistake that I've done. Always double check with the library, give them a call. Get in touch with them just to make sure that one, the resource is actually available, and two, that the resource isn't already checked out. But again, if you're looking for a physical book, a printed text, a full journal, this may be an option for you to explore through worldcat.org. Now, our next couple of slides will go over some alternative searching with Google Scholar. And if you're not familiar with Google Scholar, it is a scholarly search engine that links you to different types of resources, including peer review, academic journal articles, books, as well as content from institutional repositories. So there is actually a way that you can link the NCU library to Google Scholar, and there are benefits to searching Google Scholar, right? So when you're searching Roadrunner Search, that central search box on the library's homepage, I do want you to understand that you are only searching content and resources that the NCU library has access to or has record of. So we always recommend extending your search to other search tools like Google Scholar. That way you're doing a comprehensive search related to potential research resources that may be applicable for your topic. So you can actually, again, link the NCU library to Google Scholar. So as you'll see in this video, you can click on your Google Scholar menu, click on settings, click on library links. You'll do a quick search for North Central University. You'll make sure that there is a check mark in that box, and then you'll hit save. And ultimately what this will do is when you're searching Google Scholar, if the NCU library has access to or record of a resource, you'll see a full text at NCU link display on the far right. That way you can access that resource in full text. And this should hopefully save some back and forth, right? Trying to figure out if the NCU has access to a particular title, having to look up that title in the NCU library. This will give you that direct link. And as part of the Google Scholar suite of tools, if you will, there is a browser button that you can install, an add-on, if you will. And I do recommend using this tool because it does allow you to incorporate research in your workflow. And you can also run search queries, look up scholarly content, and locate relevant resources while you're navigating the web. So if you look at this screenshot here, what's nice about this is if you're on a journal landing page, or if you're reading through a document, you can actually highlight a title, or you can highlight a series of keyword terms. You can click on your installed Google Scholar browser button, and it will run a title search or a keyword search for those particular terms. So you can see here, I've highlighted a particular article title that I was interested in reading. I clicked on my Google Scholar browser button, and I'm able to actually access the PDF because it's available open access. So I should have mentioned this earlier. So part of the content that you will find in a Google Scholar search is open access content, where you're able to click on the free PDF or HTML version provided by the author or the publisher at no charge. Or again, if you've linked the NCU library to Google Scholar, you'll see a full text at NCU link. And this browser plugin is compatible with different types of browsers. So if you're a Google Chrome user, a Firefox user, or an Edge user, you can certainly add this browser plugin on to begin using it. And just as we saw earlier in our Roadrunner search for, finding open access resources, what's nice about Roadrunner Search is you can start your search in Roadrunner, but it does not have to end there. So after running a search in Roadrunner, you can actually extend your search query. So essentially run the same keyword search in Google Scholar by using the extend your search widgets on the far right. So you can click on Google Scholar and it will run that exact same search in the search tool. And if you're interested in learning more about Google hacks and how to leverage Google's suite of products for research, including Google Scholar, Google Books, Google Dataset Search, we do have a library guide devoted to all things Google. So you can visit this page here and review the content that's provided. The next couple of slides are actually going to look at some additional browser plugins and tools to help you leverage finding open access content or open content that's free from publishers or author supplied. So this additional browser plugin or tool is called EndNoteClick. It was formerly known as Copernio, but it is a browser plugin extension that allows you to access full text PDFs of resources for free when available. And again, most of these are going to be compatible with Google Chrome, Firefox, some Apple browsers. If you're an Opera browser user, you can certainly install EndNoteClick. But basically, this tool detects available open access or publisher versions of an article. So after you've signed up for your account, install this plugin. If you're on a journal's landing page where it might ask you to pay for this article, right? We certainly don't want to pay for resources. Save your money for much needed coffee or a vacation. But this tool will actually pinpoint a view PDF button if the article is available elsewhere free of charge or freely from the publisher. And again, as we're going through some of these browser plugins and tools, if for some reason you're not locating open content with these browser plugins and tools, you can always place a request for that resource through Interlibrary Loan. Our next tool is on Paywall, so very similar to EndNoteClick. So this is another browser extension that allows you to access the full text PDF of resources for free. But this particular tool actually harvests content from more than 50,000 journals and open access repositories and those that use great open data. So you're sourcing content basically from PubMed Central. We talked about DOAJ earlier, so the directory of open access journals, as well as Crossref and DataCite. This particular plugin is compatible with Chrome and Mozilla Firefox browsers. And again, if you've landed on a journal article page and it's asking you to pay for money, what this tool will do, if you have it installed on your browser, it will scan these open repositories to see if it could find an open access PDF or a publisher version free of charge. So you'll end up seeing a little green unlock icon on your screen where you can click to access the article. All right, and then we also have open access button. So again, very similar to our other two browser plugins tools. This one provides free access to scholarly papers by scouring the web. But what's unique about open access button is that you can actually email the authors directly to see if they may be able to provide a copy of the resource. And you can search for resources directly on the website. So if you went to the open access button site, you can enter a title in the search bar and see if it is freely available through their site. And here's an example. So I landed on this page through the Science Mag site to read this article, but instead I clicked on my open access button browser plugin and I was able to pull up a free version, which you can see below. So the question is, should I install one or should I install all of these plugins? So my recommendation is that you install all of these different plugins if you're able and willing, only because, again, they use different search repositories and algorithms to provide you with access to content freely. So if you look at this particular example, with EndNoteClick, it could not find an open access PDF version for me to read. However, on Paywall, which is that green unlock icon on the far right, I was able to click on that and access the PDF of this particular resource. Our last browser plugin extension is actually called Library Extension. So this is a browser plugin extension that allows you to view instant availability of information for books, music, and audiobooks from your local public library, as long as they are subscribed to this tool. So more than 5,000 libraries are part of this tool, and it displays information locally from those catalogs from that library. So as you search for resources, whether it's Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, Google Books, what Library Extension will do is it will display results for items held in your local library that you've defined within the plugin, within the extension. Now, our next series of slides are going to cover an alternate search tool called Web of Knowledge. This is a database that you have access to through our A to Z databases list, but it's primarily a research tool for discovering more articles, more citations on your research topic, including seminal and high impact articles. I do recommend that you sign up for a personal account. That way you're able to create search and citation alerts, as well as pin any article citations to a saved personal folders area. If you're interested in delving deeper into Web of Knowledge. And I think this is fair to say for a lot of the resources that we've covered in our session already, we could probably spend an hour long on these individual tools and resources. But if you are interested in learning more about Web of Knowledge, we do offer a workshop called Am I Done Yet? A deep dive into using Web of Knowledge, and you can register for that through the NCU Library events page. But just to give you a kind of snapshot of what you can do in Web of Knowledge to expand your access to resources and learn about additional articles, our next slide actually goes over our Citing Articles feature. So what's nice about this database is that you can access a citation network. So if I have maybe an older article that is outside of my 3 to 5 year date range, I could potentially use that older article to find newer sources of information related to my topic. So this particular article or author, if I should say, it was published in 2007, but since 2007, 662 other researchers have written about similar topics and referred back to this original article. So it's a way for you to trace citations. The next slide kind of illustrates some additional features within Web of Knowledge. So you're able to analyze your results and create citation reports based on your keyword terms, based on your topic. So for me, I'm a visual person, so I really enjoy these visuals because it kind of helps me put my search results into perspective, but you're kind of able to track trends in the literature related to your topic. So you can see that literature timeline. And again, you're able to access different articles, different citations that you may not have otherwise discovered in a Roadrunner search. And as part of the Web of Knowledge suite of tools, if you will, there are a couple of different apps that we'll kind of go over in the next couple of slides, but you do have access to the Web of Knowledge My Research Assistant app. And with this, you can download it to your mobile device. So whether you have an Apple or whether you have an Android, you can download the app. I will say in order to use this app and leverage all of its features, you should first create a personal account through the Web of Knowledge database in the NCU library. But once you've created that account, once you log in to the app, it'll give you access to all of the Web of Knowledge features, as well as a master journal list, no matter where you are. You can perform basic searches and save them for later reference. You can search by author, publication name, keywords. You can search, again, that master journal list. So if you want to see the top journals in psychology or the top journals in business, you can do that. You're able to save specific articles and journals to a favorites list. And you're also able to share links to articles and journal profiles on other social media applications. So just a nice way to have your research travel with you, or if you're kind of, multitasking and want to do research on the go, you can certainly use the Web of Knowledge app. Our next tool is ResearchGate. And if you're not familiar with ResearchGate, consider it the LinkedIn of academia. It's a professional network for scientists and researchers with more than 17 million members worldwide. With ResearchGate, you can create a free personal account, which will allow you to share, discover, and discuss research. You can connect with your peers anywhere at any time with the ResearchGate app, which is available for Apple. But the nice thing here is that, and I hope everybody here has an interest in publishing, you can share your publications and access others' research. You can connect and collaborate with colleagues. You can get stats and find out who's been reading and citing your work. You can also ask questions to the community, but it is another way for you to gain access to maybe related content and related resources on your topic. And the next screen will kind of give you an idea of what to expect if you download the app for Apple. If you don't have an Apple and you use an Android, you can just go to the website directly, researchgate.net, but this allows you to look up different author profiles. You can also access publications, and in many cases, the authors have shared out an open access version of their peer-reviewed journal articles, which you can see on the third image on this slide. And we're kind of coming to the close or end of our workshop here, but you know, as part of the library services, again, any questions that you have, we're here to support. I do want to make sure that everyone is aware of our research consultation service, as well as our recorded video research consultation service. This is all in-depth, I should say, high level and customized research assistance service. So if you're not sure where to begin researching your topic, if you need to, broaden your search and find additional articles and resources to support your dissertation topic, feel free to register for any of these sessions or request a video recorded consult. If you're on the library's homepage, you'll want to click on services and then research consultations, or if you're on the library's homepage under How Can I, you can click the link on the left that says request in-depth research support. And this is just a quick sneak peek of the form for filling out a request for a research consultation. I will say the more information you provide, the better we can assist you with expanding your research and providing different strategies and tools to help. So please don't be shy. Definitely fill out the form as completely as you can. That way we have a lot of information to work with to support your topic. And I think our last slide is just a list of references, but both Taylor and I are happy to answer any questions that you might have following today's session.
All right, it looks like we have a lot of questions in our Q&A. We're going to open that up. So the first question, someone mentions, I'm assuming there's a significant overlap between open resources. Is that correct? I'm curious where I should start my research in education and how many resources I should consult. They also added, I'm referring to open journal articles and book chapters.
I think it's hard to quantify the amount of research that you should do. As it relates to doing research, you definitely want to make sure you're doing a thorough investigative analysis as it relates to your topic. Make sure that you are exhausting the literature. I will say that means expanding outside of what's available in the NCU library, because again, we have access to a lot of resources, but we certainly don't have access to everything. We do recommend searching in places like Google Scholar or Web of Knowledge to learn about other citations that might be helpful for your topic. We have a slew of education resources that are open access or open search tools like eric.ed.gov, which indexes a lot of scholarly content, report information based in the field of education. We can certainly refer you to our Exhausting the Literature LibGuide, which has kind of a checklist of sorts. But ultimately, if you start seeing the same authors, if you start seeing the same articles, if you start seeing the same journal titles in your search, chances are you've reached a level of saturation where you're like, okay, I'm starting to see these things over and over again. So rest assured, I'm doing a thorough analysis of my topic and a thorough research for different resources.
All right, thank you. The next one is, how would you get permission for or cite a graphic/diagram from an open journal article?
So I can take this one. I mean, the permission process, it's really not going to be much different from even a proprietary resource that, let's say, you can only get through a library database. oftentimes what you need to do is be contacting the author to request permission. And we have a ton of information in the library on that. We have a tests and measurements guide, and we even have examples of permissions letters. I can pop that link into chat, but hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, hopefully that answered it. I'll wait for them to respond. The next question, with OER, you stated that it can be changed. Does this mean the content can be changed by anyone? Also, are the changes made by students, faculty, primary or secondary sources?
Cheryl, that's a great question. So yes, it means anyone can make changes with the caveat that the license does permit that. So I don't want to get too deep into the weeds with it, but most open educational resources are licensed under a particular type of license called a Creative Commons license. And so that allows for adapting, remixing, changing that resource so that it fits your needs, whatever your particular purpose is for that resource. The caveat again is ensuring that number one, the license permits it, and then also that you are providing attribution. So you are referring back to the original author and giving them attribution for creating that resource. And then in terms of it being a primary or secondary source, that's a great question. Marisha, do you have any insight on that? Like, if you're remixing an OER, would it be considered a secondary source?
I feel like it would be, because you
Yeah.
haven't conducted that research on your own. You're kind of, right? Unless you
Yes.
have new information to add, maybe you base it on your own original study, which may in case be a primary source, but I'm thinking it would probably be secondary.
Yeah, Cheryl, that seems to track. I can do some digging to give you a more precise response, because the thing is, like with, if you're creating a textbook, is that in itself considered, it's not a primary source typically, because you're providing information, you're providing a broad overview. But yeah, let me dig on that a little bit more. I'm writing down your name just so I can give you a more precise response.
Awesome. The next question I have is, what is simulation? Not sure.
Sure, yeah. So, a simulation would just be, okay, this is a great example, like a video game, right? Like you're doing some type of interactive simulation. And those can indeed be licensed as open educational resources and considered a learning resource. So yeah, I would say something like a game that you're interacting with.
Okay. And I see Pilar I think this is her responding to the question that you answered. My permission question was not in reference to a test or measurement, but a figure or table found within an open journal or chapter. Normally I need permission from the publisher, and I can click a button and request OL and get it back right away.
Yeah, so I apologize. I may have been a little bit confusing there by referring to a test and measurements guide. I simply mentioned it because that's where we house templates and examples of permission letters. So it doesn't need to be for a test instrument. You can adapt those permission letters for a particular graphic. And you are right, there are instances where you can click a button on a site and immediately request permission. Typically like through the CCC, but the Copyright Clearance Center. But in some cases, just keep in mind that you do need to directly contact an author and request permissions.
If it's all right, I have one last question. This one is, do you know if OA works with RefWorks, EndNotes, etc.?
Yeah, so I mean, when we talk about open access resources, we're talking about different articles, different books, maybe videos that are part of your research. So you can certainly add these to your citation management tools. So if you do use RefWorks, if you do use EndNote, you can certainly create a record. There are different ways when we're talking about RefWorks to add content or save content about those resources to RefWorks. So you might upload a document, you might create the reference manually, you might even export the citation information from a Google Scholar search. But again, you're kind of creating your own repository of resources, your personal database of resources with RefWorks or with EndNote. So you can certainly save information about those open access resources in those tools. So I hope that answers that question.
Thank you so much. Before I end, would you all, do you have anything you'd like to end off with before we conclude this webinar?
Just thank you all for being here. Thank you for your time.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
No problem. Thank you, Taylor, Duncan, and Marisha Kelly for taking the time to present, and thank you for the attendees for joining us today. As a reminder, the recording will be posted in the CTL LibGuides within 24 hours in case you missed anything from the wealth of knowledge that was given today. You can always find it in the CTL LibGuides. Have a good one, and thank you for attending.